Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Craig Lesser, Managing Partner of the Pendleton Group.
What an introduction. Good morning, everybody. Come on.
Good morning.
That's a lot better. It's good to see everybody this morning. It's Friday, September, 29th? Some of you got paid today? It's a good day. It's a good day. Before we get into this panel, I sat here through the last session when you all got up there and voted and did, are we here? All right. And Otis, who does a brilliant job of orchestrating all of this. But you got a lot of different ideas up there. And now I have full play to say what I want for two reasons. One, I'm kind of older than all of you. And two, I'm not getting paid for this gig. Well, some of you are. You are. One thing to think about with all of these great things, focus. Because you can't do all these things. But if you do one, and you do it brilliantly, it will have impact on so many other things. Focus. Stay together. And that's a great introduction to this panel about game changers. Because game changers came out of this group, and it was about focus, and it's been incredibly effective, and we're going to hear about that from three great panelists this morning. So Chris was kind enough to write up some stuff for me, and I'm going to kind of breeze through it very quickly as an introduction of this group this morning. This is a panel about civic leaders' positive impact on young game changers communities. It's sponsored by the Georgia Municipal Association and the Georgia Cities Foundation. Now, GMA was created in 1933. It's the only state organization that represents municipal governments in Georgia. It's based here in Atlanta. It's a voluntary, nonprofit organization that provides legislative advocacy, educational, employment benefit, and technical consulting services to its members. Currently, it has 521 municipal governments, accounting for more than 99% of the Georgia municipal population. Represented here today for GMA is Brian Wallace, who was sitting right there a moment ago, but he's here somewhere. The Georgia Cities Foundation, a 501c3 organization, was originally established as a nonprofit subsidiary of GMA. And the foundation administers a revolving loan fund to the revitalization of downtown throughout the state of Georgia. And the Georgia Cities Foundation also assists in Downtown Development Authority training, providing information on management of downtown as a valuable resource. The role of the authority and of board members and staff, DDA laws, and day-to-day operations of an authority. And Mike Starr is here representing the Georgia Cities Foundation. Now, let's introduce our panelists this morning. With a statewide network and a true gift for, now, Chris wrote this, so listen carefully. With a true gift for bringing people together, Phil Best Sr. has positively impacted Dublin and Lawrence County for more than 27 years. Currently serving as mayor of Dublin, he's also a member of the Lawrence County Board of Health and Community Mental Health Board, past president of the Dublin Board of Realtors, and presently sits on the board of directors for GMA. In addition, he's the chair of GMA's Environmental and Natural Resources Committee. He's been involved in the real estate business for a number of years, and she says, Phil's good old boy sense of humor lightens the air among an industry notorious for serious business. Thank you, Chris. Hardy Davis. His rise to the mayorship of Augusta is a unique story rooted in abiding faith. He was born to Hardy and Delois and grew up in Forsyth, Georgia, relocated to Augusta in 1985. He holds a Bachelor of Electrical Engineering degree from Georgia Tech.
Go Jackets.
Did you write that in there for him?
She did.
Okay. And a Doctor of Ministry degree from the Christian Life School of Theology in Columbus. His public service spans 3 years as state representative, 5 years as a state senator. He's a respected leader and public servant, served as chairman of the Interstate Cooperation Committee, and an active member of the Economic Development, Ethics, Finance, and Higher Education Senate committees. And so our next panelist is not here, Patrick Cruz. I crossed his name off, so he's not here. All right. Now, but our third and the rose between two thorns, Dr. Ramona Jackson Jones is Douglas County Commission Chair. Shortly after graduating high school, she followed in the footsteps of her father, a Korean War veteran, by joining the U.S. Army for 3 years. And she went on to get a bachelor's degree from Southern Illinois University, a master's degree from Chapman, and an educational doctorate from Argosy University. She's worked in federal government, state government, public, private, nonprofit, and for-profit organizations, worked in the healthcare industry for 40 years, working in operations management, budget, policy development, personnel, process. Did you just own the company that you were in?
Sure.
Because you did it all. She is very active in the Douglas County community and is on the Live Healthy Douglas Steering Committee and Douglas County Care Place organizational team, among others. And so please welcome our distinguished panel here today. So in the sense of informality, we're not going to call people by their titles.
That's right.
We're going to call everybody by first name, and you can call me whatever you want, at the beginning and at the end. Phil, Ramona, and Hardy. And Hardy, I want to start with you a little bit. Tell us about the experience of Game Changers in Augusta.
Thanks, Craig. For those who don't know, Craig is also the 2017 Lifetime Achievement Awards winner for Georgia International, and a longtime friend of ours, Chris. I think we all know that. So we're excited to be on the panel with this distinguished group and also have you moderating.
Thank you.
The Young Game Changers program that took place in Augusta in 2016 was fabulous. It was a way for us to bring the community together in a way that we had not done before, particularly with, and I see several of our Augustans who are here in the audience. Thank you for being here, and the participants who were there in 2016. But it was a way for us to take 4 big ideas and really begin to talk about them in a non-threatening way, to move beyond the traditional narratives of who gets to go on first. And I think that's what made it successful. Some of the ideas that were brought up were things that we actually were already working on, but having a group of people who were non-natives to collaborate with natives of Augusta proved helpful in terms of putting some structure and perhaps some definition around some of the ideas that we had been thinking about prior to me becoming mayor, and certainly since I've been mayor as well. And they were willing to put that definition to include what some things would cost, which was an exercise that we didn't necessarily have to do.
Well, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk, and maybe the 3 of you can all chime in on this. Tell us about the structure of Game Changers. What is Game Changers? Phil, you want to chime in on that?
Be glad to. First of all, we were very excited when we were chosen to be the second community to be able to benefit from Game Changers. But the way I see Game Changers, it's a group of very smart, intellectual, young folks that come into your community, and if you're willing to listen, they're willing to help you improve your community. That's the bottom line. And that's exactly what they did for us.
And this came out of Georgia Forward.
That's right.
And how are these young people chosen?
That I don't know. I thought you would know that.
Yeah.
I'm asking because I don't know. I'm representing the people.
Yeah. You know, they choose some of Georgia's brightest and youngest minds, 50 individuals from across the great state of Georgia. Young Game Changers is a leadership action program, different than some of the other programs that we have here in the state of Georgia. And through an application process, competitive application process, might we add, that you're able to take a group of people and bring them into a community that many of them perhaps have never seen before, probably may not visit again. Hopefully they always will. And that's how we get here.
So, all right, so come back to Augusta now. What happened? When did they come there? What did they do when they got there, and what did they recommend?
August 2016, there were 4 big ideas in terms of, one, getting the university to do a better job of collaborating with the city. to take advantage of our river resources. How can we begin tying Fort Gordon together as well with the overall city? They did a fantastic job of, one, identifying some of those things, as I indicated earlier, that we were already doing. But I'll mention just a few of these. I know we'll get a chance to come back, but Augusta University, many people suggest that the reason why Augusta is having this huge renaissance is just because of cyber. I disagree with that. I think what really jump-started it was the 2012 decision by the legislature to combine what historically were two schools, community colleges, Augusta College, or at that time State University, and the Medical College of Georgia. That, in my mind, was the catalytic moment that put Augusta in a position to actually have Georgia's fourth research institution. Because of that, we now have the horsepower of a major institution to help drive some of the economy, and that is what we see taking place now, to layer on top of that the whole cyber conversation, which came a year later, in fact. And so when you have those two engines working together as they are now, one of the ideas, again, with the collaboration with Augusta University and the city of Augusta, has resulted in office space being rented downtown, that historically would have just been vacant space in a building that has historic implications in Augusta, where Augusta University has now taken up 2 floors of that. After Young Game Changers, again, that time period, August 2016 to December 2016, when they gave their final recommendations, immediately after that, we had the announcement of the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center, a $60 million investment in the city of Augusta on our riverfront property that, again, just sent shockwaves not only through the community and the state of Georgia, but quite frankly, the nation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ramona, what's your experience?
Well, it's been a positive experience for Douglas County. The Game Changers, I feel.
Can everybody hear her?
Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. The Game Changers have been a very positive experience for Douglas County. The baby boomers are aging, so this is a moment for the Game Changers to take the baton, for lack of a better term. So they're real excited. They've come in and made some big differences and changes in Douglas County with regard to our Cultural Arts Center. They're looking at Parks and Recreation. We have a Connect Douglas that we're looking at, which is our transit system. We've never had a transit system there. They've made some very strong recommendations, and that system will become active for 2018, so they've been very instrumental in that as well. Workforce development has been one of our initiatives with the Young Game Changers. They have actually, Breezy Stratton, who is a member of the Young Game Changers, have stepped in and she's working with some of our local businesses there to see if we could gain apprenticeship opportunities to allow the workforce to accept students or the Young Game Changers that are coming up and coming, so they can have an opportunity to work in the workforces that we really need workers. So Breezy Stratton has stepped up to the plate, and also our External Affairs Director, Tiffany Stewart-Stanley, is the liaison, and she serves at the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners, and she works directly with the Young Game Changers as well. So we're really excited. They've done a lot for Douglas County.
And we'll come back to more of that in a moment.
Yes.
Phil, you were the second community.
Right.
How did you choose or were chosen to be that community?
We went through the same process we just talked about. Obviously, when Chris came down to talk to us, we pulled out all the stops because we were very eager to be that community, and we offered to help. Our team was in place to meet with Chris and told him what we very much would like for them to come, and it was very beneficial. They identified several opportunities for us, and we have taken advantage of those suggestions and working hard on them.
And they came for how long?
Well, the whole process was a year, and they came 3 times. They visited the first time, stayed overnight, then came back for the second visit to follow up, and then came back for the third visit to give us their suggestions.
Sounds like it's been very successful.
Oh, it's been great. I mean, they suggested 4 or 5 good things, and we have responded to all 5 and are working diligently, have completed some, and have the plan in place to do the others.
Does anybody here participate as a game changer? Who wants to talk a little bit about what it's like from your perspective? Oh, come on.
I'll do it.
Great. What is your name?
My name is Shamika.
And there's a microphone coming.
Yes. Help us. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. So I'm Shamika. I participated in the Spring 2017 Young Game Changers program in LaGrange, Troup County. I think we have a panel later that's going to go a little bit further into our experiences as Young Game Changers, but I just think that one thing I'd like to throw out into this conversation was the tremendous amount of support from the leadership in that community and how critical that was to the success of our program. You know, going into a community that you're unfamiliar with, I think one of our first tasks was kind of to establish and understand what the existing assets were. And so that involved really having some in-depth conversation with the community leaders and just finding out what has been tried, what worked, what didn't work, and then not just coming into the community to try to fix anything or propose things that may not have been thought of before, but actually capitalizing on those ideas that had maybe reached the surface, but just hadn't been implemented in the way that was most effective for that community. So I think that the support from leaders like you is so important for this program because that just helps feed our creativity and help contribute to the big picture.
Thank you for that. How did your colleagues in leadership react to the idea that Game Changers was coming to town?
You can go first and I'll go.
Well, in Augusta, I mean, we were extremely excited about it. My friend, former Mayor Copenhaver, and I were both part of the board. We had talked about it, had many conversations with Chris about can Augusta do this, and we were excited about it because once again, we're very passionate about, you know, millennials, the younger generation of folks who will come behind us and lead our city and continue to do great things. But I think for us, it was a way for us to provide a platform for individuals who want to be involved, want to be engaged, but wouldn't necessarily have had it, and Young Game Changers gave us that opportunity.
And no pushback from any of your colleagues?
No.
Welcoming Game Changers, open arms?
Very much so.
Great. Terrific. So what happened then?
And same for Douglas County. Of course, the Game Changers built a narrative for greatness, and the board that I sit on, we are seasoned. So we realized that the next generation is coming behind us, and we realized that we needed to be open-minded, to sit back and listen to some new ideas. And also we're excited about Game Changers because they're visionaries. They think outside the box. So they're bringing great ideas as we move. And I believe in the 21st century, and everything should be done 21st century style. So this is just the prime time for the Game Changers to be at the table, making decisions for the future of our country.
Prior to Game Changers coming to your communities, did you see the challenges the same way they ended up seeing them?
Sometimes you're too close to the problem. Sometimes when you're too close, you need, I call it a fresh set of eyes to look at something differently, and this generation definitely is looking at it from a different perspective. I'm a baby boomer. Of course, I don't sometimes like to deal with technology, and they're just pushing it, and you have to have technology. It's important. So I'm excited about the Game Changers.
What did you run on when you were running for chairman?
I ran on economic development, transportation infrastructure, public safety, and those are the things that I'm very passionate about. Want to make sure that I make a difference for our county.
And what's the one thing Game Changers did to contribute to those three areas?
They have definitely impacted economic development. We recently had a study, a consultant came in from Avalanche, conducted a study. They were at the table with us making some of those decisions. Marketing and branding is certainly an opportunity for Douglas County. We have not had that in the past, and their vision is part of what's leading our efforts forward now in Douglas County. So they were at the table. It was about a 6 or 7 month effort, and the Game Changers were, I call it, we were in lockstep together. They were with me making those decisions, so I'm really excited about our new economic development and marketing and branding plan for Douglas County.
Phil, I'm always curious about Dublin, because some might make the case, and I mean this with all great respect, and you do have an interstate highway going through, but other than that, you're in the middle of nowhere.
That's right. Absolutely.
But you and your colleagues in Dublin have done a marvelous job by any account of advancing the economic development process, bringing new investment in, sustaining existing investment. Tell us about that.
You know, if I could attribute any one thing, it is we have empowered our younger generation to make the decisions and help us to grow. I've always felt like I was part of the younger generation, but I'm not anymore. And but we have a wealth of knowledge in our community of people that are in their 30s to 40s, and what we did was say, hey guys, well, we first gave a project to work on, and it was just a total success. So after that, we said, hey, y'all come to us and tell us what we need to do. And that's what they've done. It's a group of people. It's not one. It's not two or three. It's a group of people that have really come in and transformed the way we think in Dublin.
When you're talking to prospects, investors, you bring all those young people into the game?
A good many of them, yes. Absolutely. Yeah, well, they bring us into the game. That's where it, that's the difference. They're taking the lead. When I first became mayor, and this was 18 years ago, the economic development team consisted of the mayor and the county commission chair and whoever the chamber director was. Well, when an industry or prospect came in, they wanted to know the facts. The lemonade under the tent came later. Mm-hmm. And so what we did
Wait a minute, help me with that.
Well, everybody's got the greenest grass and got the sweetest lemonade in their community. And there's a time that the elected officials need to take a part. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we empowered the folks, the managers, the professionals, to help us to recruit economic development, to transform our downtown, to change the whole way we look at tourism, and it's been a total success.
Mm-hmm. Young people are staying in Dublin?
They are, and some are coming back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not enough. We need more. We got to do some more things. But
how active is your education system engaged in all of this, including Game Changers?
I can't speak specifically to Game Changers, but I do know our education system is part of the team when we're recruiting, as far as your Freeport taxes, and anytime they can participate in incentives or help, they're very much a partner.
Mm-hmm. Hardy, I want to switch over to Augusta, which, look, we can all talk about the issues. Sure. That Augusta has had over the years. Mm-hmm. You've had lots of changes in the power structure in Augusta. Where are things now? Of course, with the support of Game Changers, sure. But where are things? Where are things moving? Where are things going?
Well, I think with the transition, certainly from a leadership standpoint, there's a great deal of momentum and energy in our city. I think those who are natives would tell you that it's unprecedented at this time with all of the activity that's taking place in our urban core. We've got private sector investments that are being made. You've got 3 new hotels that are going to be stood up, 2 that we already have announced, 1 that's already being constructed. There's just so much energy in our urban core and Augusta in general that I think people have gone to the hashtag Choose Augusta, and that's exciting. Notwithstanding that, there are greater leadership opportunities moving forward for us to do things differently. Difference not bad, difference just that, we had a path and a trajectory that we were going on, but now it's really accelerated because of some things that have happened. That's the thing that I think people are gravitating towards, that there's this sense of urgency and a sense of we can do anything in Augusta now. And I think leadership certainly has played a role in that. We're getting more people around the table, and I think that's certainly boded well, having young game changers there, being able to bring a group of people to the table who come from non-traditional power structures, if you will, to say, hey, we matter. We want to not only make investments in terms of living, learning, working, and raising a family, but why don't you bring us to the table? We have seen that. We've been able to do that, and I think that provides Augusta with a tremendous sense of capacity in the days ahead for future generations of leaders, but more importantly, those stakeholders, kind of like what Phil said, that want to make contributions today. They don't want to say, well, we're the next generation. They want to make contributions today. And we need to continually find ways to engage them, and I think that's what's happening in the city of Augusta.
So both of you have really referenced an emotional shift that has occurred.
Yep.
Could I talk about the shift in Douglas County?
Please.
In Douglas County, we want you to do it in Douglas, and we live by the mantra of Vince Lombardi. There's no room for second place, and we mean that. So we've done some great things. We are looking at, number one, we've had a company switch, which is a database center. It's one of the largest database centers in the United States and probably in the world, has chosen Douglas County as one of their sites. It's a $2.5 billion investment. It's the largest investment in Georgia's history. So we're definitely ready to compete. The young game changers have inspired us in the manner of which you never give up, and it's all about competing. So we realize that our unemployment rate is down in Douglas County. It's a lot of enthusiasm similar to Augusta. Excitement in Douglas. We have a SPLOST, of course, which is allowing us to do things that we have not been able to do in years. We are moving and shaking. Jobs are coming, new food places all over the place. So it is a good time in Douglas, but it is as a result of the vision of the game changers. Our transit system is almost ready to be born. We have a few things to work out, but we're excited.
That's quite a salutation that it's been the result of game changers.
Yes, absolutely.
Congratulations, game changers. That's really amazing. You've had in Douglas County a massive shift
We have.
in the power structure. Tell us a little bit about that.
The shift comes at a time where it's needed for change in Douglas. Douglas has been a sleepy hollow for a while, which is very well. I call it a bedroom community. But we know and it comes at a time in life that you must compete. And I believe the shift comes, it's at a time where my leadership is needed because I'm extremely competitive. You can tell the way I talk. I believe in, I was married to a Marine. I served 19 of his 20 years, so it's command-in-chief type style life. So the shift came at a time that was needed in Douglas County. We are making changes. We are moving forward. We are inclusive. I have embraced diversity. And this is a great time for Douglas County, really is.
The economy in Georgia is running pretty well right now. Mm-hmm. We've done a good job. The state, local government, the private sector, all of the different communities, for the most part, the larger communities in the state have recovered fairly well. We're still hurting in many, many parts of rural Georgia. There's no question about that. How do you prepare for the downturn in the economy? Because much of what has occurred, in some sense, one might argue, we're here. When the economy's good, things turn out well. When the economy's bad, we're not in such great shape. How do you prepare for that day that will probably come in the next few years when there's a downturn in the economy?
I think in Augusta, we've been very fortunate. We were not hit with the housing crunch. We were fairly insulated from that, unlike some other cities in the state of Georgia. And so as we went through, the Great Recession, if you will, we were fairly insulated from that. Augusta's community and economy has historically been medicine, manufacturing, and the military. And because they were all strong in Augusta and continue to be strong, we now are making that transition from reliance on manufacturing. Military has taken off with significant investments because of cyber. $180 million in November of last year with the Cyber Command Center of Excellence headquarters. And you see what's going on. Again, medicine, healthcare community continues to be strong in Augusta. but we quickly are transitioning into an innovation and technology economy. We believe in Augusta, I believe as mayor, that that is our next exodus, if you will. We're going to be a very strong community in terms of public and private sector opportunities around innovation and technology, around the thrust of cybersecurity, cyber technology, cyber warfare. Those opportunities are going to be exponential in nature, especially if we're able to harness that from an education perspective and then an industry perspective that's not just military but private sector. When the Targets of the world, the Chase, the JP Morgans of the world are being hacked, we believe Augusta is going to be solving those problems and fixing it and providing the opportunities to put not just firewalls in place but early detection systems that, I sound like a Georgia Tech guy now, early detection systems that allow us to be able to thwart penetrations from enemies from within and without. That's what Augusta's doing to prepare itself to make sure that we have a vibrant economy for future generations of Augustans who, like Phil, my vision for Augusta from day one is how do we provide a culture and a climate for folks who are Augustans to graduate from college and come back home to live, to learn, to work, and to raise a family.
Back to your cyber issue, could we go up to Peachtree Street and talk to the people at Equifax?
Yes.
Would that be okay?
It would be okay.
So, but what I'm hearing from the three of you is not just a focus on, in your case, some targeted industries,
Right.
but it's creating an atmosphere. An atmosphere that says, this is a great place to do business, it's a great place to live, it's a great place to be. Is that a focus that you have as part of your leadership?
Yes.
Or is that just happening?
It's not just happening. We're pushing the needle, the throttle, moving it forward in Douglas County. We are continually realizing that we must be prudent spenders of our dollars, and of course I'll just pivot back to your question regarding what would we do in the event of the downturn in the economy. We will do like fighters, we'll do the rope-a-dope, we'll keep our face covered like they did before the previous administration did, which they did a very good job of not spending. They, we put a halt to a lot of things because we don't have the industry that you have to sustain us. But we do have the Googles there. We have an Amazon fulfillment center. We have the big Medline center there. So we have some economy that will allow us to remain sustainable. But again, we are tightening the belt. But today we have some reserve funds that's allowing us to address some issues that needed to be addressed many years. We just couldn't do it, but now we are in the position to do it. But again, we'll pivot back to that same tighten the belt, live below the means, but right now we are this is a good time, so we're trying not to look back right now.
Phil?
I'm hearing a lot of good things, but I want to say something that's kind of like Sam Walton said in one of his books about Walmart. He said what took him 45 years to do was deemed as an overnight success when he became the richest man on the list. That's the way it is with these communities. What you see now, the successes you're seeing, are not created by the group necessarily that's there. There's other people that need to get credit for that too. And one of those groups is Georgia City's foundation. I think one of the best things that happened to rural Georgia and to the cities in rural Georgia was the bus tours. We hosted 2 of those. We participated in a couple of them, and we began to be educated by participation in what can happen with a downtown and what can happen with tourism. So I think, I think Mike Starr's sitting out there, I think that group did a lot. 20 years ago, nobody was worried about a downtown. That wasn't even discussed in a community. But now, because of that, that's helped, and that's helped us vary our views from just one idea.
I think I echo the same sentiments as Phil with that. And I think, again, to your point, it's partners like Mike and the folks at Georgia Cities. But I think from a municipality standpoint, our county, we have to include ACCG
Absolutely.
and our great friends at GMA as well.
Absolutely.
Because of what they're doing under the Gold Dome, every legislative session and beyond, to help stand up what's going on in our counties and our cities. And that's how you create the culture for success. It takes good public policy as well as infrastructure and the things that we do from a day-to-day perspective. And then, of course, it takes good people. It just takes good people. You can't do anything from a leadership standpoint without good people. And that's the thing. And I've got good people from Augusta who are in this room right now. And I oftentimes say this, that any success or opportunities that we have to stand on a platform, we must remind ourselves that someone else built it.
That's right.
Great points. Yeah.
Who's got a question or a comment for this Augusta group? Chris?
I just would like if y'all would talk a little bit about what has been done with the recommendations since they've been given, because I know we were in 2013 we were in Dublin, Lawrence County, so they've had the most time to implement the recommendations, and I was down there just a few months ago when y'all did the gateway. So if you would just talk a little bit about what's been done since the recommendations were given.
Okay, that's going to take me about an hour. But no, first I guess the first recommendation was our gateway. I don't know how many of you know it, but Martin Luther King gave his first speech in Dublin, Georgia, and it was at First AB Baptist Church. And that is the entrance to our downtown, First AB, and they're celebrating their 150th anniversary this month. So what we did, and I need to thank our Visit Dublin folks that are sitting right here, Rebecca McWilliams, she championed, as Mike said earlier, a move that we built a memorial at First AB, and when I say we, I'm talking about the community. There was no public money put in it, some in-kind work, but the community built that memorial. I take that back, there was some public money put in it. There was a couple of small state grants. But that was one of the things that Game Changers suggested to us, and that's been just a great project. Besides the physical project, it has really, it's a place for us to go pray now and to have community events. It's just a good place. Second thing, and we're being in the middle of nowhere, like you say, Craig, and I agree with you. We did have the tallest building between Macon and Savannah in our downtown. We call it the skyscraper. And it's a 7-story building. And I think all the Game Changers recognize that. It was the elephant in our room in our downtown. That is now the campus for Georgia Military College, or GMC, on the first 4 floors, and the other 2 floors are private suites, and there's a restaurant at the bottom. We had an area called Stubbs Park, which was an inner city park surrounded by a neighborhood that was really going down. The city bought 4 properties there, put the bike cops there as in one building, our land bank authority in another one. A policeman, we give him free rent to stay in one of the houses, and then a transformer program. Since that was done, there's been events at the park. There's been a dub jam we have every year. Bicyclists come through, so it's just been a total success. And there's a couple more if you want me to continue, or if I need to give time for the other.
Well, let's give some time, and if we have some more time, we'll come back. Ramona?
I don't have but about 8 more things.
What we've done in Douglas County, we've established a board of directors to lead this, and they're all young Game Changers. And we've moved along. We're working with our Cultural Arts Center, the Game Changers, in coordination with the liaison, Tiffany Stewart-Stanley, to make sure that some of those initiatives, such as suggested, were the parks enhancements, and Sweetwater Park, which is the 2nd largest park in Georgia. So that is one of our selling points. So they really wanted to make sure that it is a tourist attraction. I can't speak on behalf of our mayor, who is Mayor Rochelle Robinson, for the downtown development, but that's going extremely well. I can just summarize briefly. So a lot of things are happening at the table now regarding that revitalization for downtown. And I agree with both of y'all. You need to have that downtown component. And another area of workforce development, which I mentioned earlier, is very critical for us. We have a young game changer leading that initiative as well. So that is about the gist now, except finally we call it Naturally Douglas is one of our areas that we're looking at, and that still ties into the tourism piece and that cultural arts piece. And then our transit system, which we are looking to call it Connect Douglas. We have not formalized the name yet, but we believe that's what we will call it, Connect Douglas, and it'll say circular system, bus route is 2 routes, but that's the best thing since tea and honey in Douglas County because we've never had a transit system. So that's where we're planning to go now.
Fantastic. We've done a number of things with obviously a lot more to do, but the connection between Augusta and Augusta University is obviously strong. You're seeing that playing out. That's the result of the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center. So that's a 17-acre piece of property that was on the river. It was included in some of your comments about how do we bring that together. I think we've seen some effort with the JAG-SWAG process where you've got Augusta University coming into downtown and the urban core, particularly with some things that they're doing with lunch, with meals, and kind of highlighting those things. We have most recently, because I remember this being one of the key things that was mentioned by several groups, and that was a facade grant program. I see Ed Keisha in the room. I've seen her, yeah, there she is. Her group is going to be rolling that out in next year. Be at the top of the year. We've got a facade grant program that we're rolling out for downtown Augusta, which has been long overdue. And so you're going to see that. We most recently announced the James Brown Heritage Trail, so we brought some national folks in to really take an opportunity to leverage what James Brown has meant into the city of Augusta, to go beyond just the statue that you saw on Broad Street that many of you went and took your photos around. And so those are things that we're doing. We're going to see another development that will allow us to expand the Augusta Commons, which was one of those highlighted issues in your report, that we expand it and take it to the river. We've got money set aside to be able to do that already. We're just waiting on the private sector to say, hey, let's dance. But we're ready from a city standpoint to go ahead and make that happen. That will take it all the way to the levee. We'll have a feature that goes over the levee and out into the water. We've got resources already set aside. So these are things that came through the recommendations that you guys provided us with, and we're going to see more of that in the days ahead. I think the one thing we probably should do is have a group of young game changers to kind of oversee and marshal that. So I hear that loud and clear.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We had a question over here, and we're running out of time, but please go ahead.
That's cute.
So I sit on the Citizens. Damn, thank you, love. So I sit on the Citizens Advisory Council for the Plan Department in Columbus, Georgia, and we just are doing tons of bike trails to bring in, you know, I guess the biking community to Columbus, Georgia. So number one, what are you guys doing as far as developing your bike trail or your biking community? And then number two, are you guys looking at empowering young people in your community to stay and grow, rather the first thing they could do is leave, to go to a more of a metropolis like Atlanta or Chicago or something like that?
Well, I'll start. I'll jump in. In Douglas County, this past Saturday, this Saturday and last Saturday, we have a nice festival called September Saturdays in Douglas County. It has a draw of about 20,000 citizens in Douglas County and outside of our county as well. Folks come in, but we had a Bike-tober last week, and it's funded under ARC, Atlanta Regional Commission, which allowed the citizens to just bond with bikes, first of all, because we learned that some of our citizens are really not bikers, so we're beginning to throw that approach out there. And also, we have bike lanes that we've infiltrated in our county, so we have a few, not a lot, but we are placing bike lanes along some of the main highways. And then in our parks, we have trails. Boundary Waters Park has about a little 1.5 mile bike trail, but we are looking at a connection. We have a Sweetwater master plan that the Douglas County Board of Commissioners and the Planning and Zoning Committee just approved recently, and that will entail bike trails and just more on an elaborate approach as we go forward. Okay.
Marty, Phil?
Yeah, so we're doing a number of things as well to include as we expand our roadways out as far away as Highway 56, where there's a bike lane in place now. The 5th Street Bridge renovations, there's bike access there. You're going to see more of that in downtown, but with our Recreation and Parks Master Plan, which many of you had a chance to see when you were in Augusta, as we're rolling that out, there's a plan to tie that to North Augusta, the Greenway that has been very successful for them to allow us through across the river and interconnections with communities to include all the way to Savannah Rapids from Columbia County back into downtown Augusta. There's an effort on the way right now to be able to do all of those things from a bike and a pedestrian perspective.
I think we addressed in Dublin the young, engaging the young folks. One other thing I will add to that is there is a group, there's a young professionals group that was created by some young folks there in Dublin that's 50 strong, and they do social events and they do projects. They've had 2 forums in Dublin and sponsored them and hosted them, so that's that part. On the bike trails, we have a state bike trail that comes through Dublin. And what we have done, and this was a suggestion of the Young Game Changers, is what we call the River Walk Bike Trail. We have the Oconee River that comes through Dublin. The city, there was a study done and the preliminary design was done, and now we have budgeted enough money to get the first right-of-way down by the river to start that project. That will be a longer-term project because of the magnitude of it, but that's where we are with that.
Phil, I take it back. You're not in the middle of nowhere. You're in the middle of somewhere.
Yes.
And I congratulate the 3 of you for the work that you're doing as leaders of your respective communities. I congratulate all of you who have participated in Game Changers, and of course Georgia Forward for sponsoring this effort in getting this done. You can see the success in these 3 cities from what has occurred over the last couple of years. In closing, and thank you to our hosts for this particular hour or so, GMA and Georgia Cities Foundation, thank you both. Closing comments about what other cities should learn and get. What is the message to these other cities in Georgia from the 3 of you?
You want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay. The takeaway from this should be that Game Changers, other cities should allow some, I call it younger minds, to come to the table to make some of these decisions, because they will be moving our future forward. And this is a time of embracement. And I think that it's very important that this approach of young game changers become contagious and spread all across the country, because the time is here. The millennials have spoke. They have spoken loud and clear, and I'm excited about it because I'm ready to go to the beach. So I'm real excited for you all to take the baton. So I believe that we should move over and leave the stage while everybody's still clapping to allow you to come forward and take the reins. So that's my message, that young minds are great things, great components of just the thinking process, and we welcome young game changers all over in Douglas County. I'll just speak for Douglas County.
Hardy?
Well, one, thank Chris and Georgia Ford for choosing Augusta last year. I think that my takeaways and what I would share with the group that's here today: stay engaged beyond your time in the community as young game changers. Don't allow that to be a fleeting thing, but rather connect, communicate, and engage the folks that live in those communities that you were a part of, and help them usher these ideas along. I think that that's always extremely important for that network to really be long-term and have sustainability. Stay connected, stay engaged, and help us get these ideas beyond the thought process to implementation.
Phil?
Yeah.
You know, as an elected official, sometimes we're guilty of, we think we got all the answers, but we don't.
Right.
And I'd say to invite game changers into your community, embrace them, and listen.
What do you think, these three great leaders? Thank you all very much for this session, and thank you, Chris.